Hello folks, my name is Nick, and today we're taking a look at 12 Realms from Mage Company. Now this is a fully cooperative fantasy game, and when I say fantasy, I mean it's actually based off of fairy tales. Each of the players takes control of a different character from a storybook, like Robin Hood, or Red Riding Hood, Snow White, Joan of Arc for some reason, and you're actually going to these different fantasy realms. The game is called 12 Realms, but actually there's only 4 realms in the core game. But each of the realms, which are represented by boards, are kind of different fantasy realms. There's one that's sort of like Snow White's fantasy realm. There's one that's based off of Japanese, so it's like the cherry blossom world. There's a pirate board and so forth. And what you're trying to do is actually take out the Dark Lord of each of those boards, which might be like an evil fairy princess. One of them is a monkey king from the pirate board, and so on. And actually, I say fully cooperative, but there's a variant that one player can actually be like the Overlord, taking control of the invading monsters and the Dark Lords, and playing nasty events and things like that. Now, I want to actually give a little bit of backstory about how I came to own this game and why I was so excited about it originally, because this was one of the very first games I ever backed on Kickstarter. If you look at my project list on Kickstarter, which is actually the kill shirt if you actually care about looking it up, it's like the second or third project that I backed. I mean, it's definitely in the top 5. And it was an exciting one for me because the other projects I had backed prior to that, I came in late. This is when I first started on Kickstarter, and I kind of just hopped on a couple of projects that were way past their funding goal. Like Kingdom Death Monster ended up making over $2 million. By the time I got into the project, they were making up stretch goals as they gained money. They didn't even have enough stretch goals planned out. The other one was Guilds of Cadwallon, which only didn't have that many stretch goals, but it easily made its funding goal and sailed through it. 12 Realms made its funding goal, but it was kind of a struggle, and it didn't make every stretch goal I think that they had planned out. So it kind of got my excitement up because I actually was watching and rooting and hoping that we would meet certain stretch goals, like getting the Dark Lord miniatures and, you know, upgrading the coins and things like that. And it was like, it really got me into Kickstarter and into that excitement, which you could say is sort of superficial, and a lot of people don't like stretch goals on Kickstarter, but it was fun for me. And this game, along with other games like Kingdom Death, are a big part of the reason why I got hooked on Kickstarter, why I still love it to this day, why I do Kickstarter updates on Board Game Breakfast and on my own channel, and so on. And actually I did an unboxing video when I finally got this Kickstarter in the mail a couple months ago, because I was so excited to get it, and I just wanted to show off all the cool bits, and there are a lot of cool bits in this box. But all that history aside, and all the cool bits aside, is this actually a good game? It's still a Kickstarter game. I've been disappointed by Kickstarter before. Let's take a look at it, then we'll come back, and I'll tell you if I'm disappointed or not. Okay, this is just going to be a brief overview of 12 Realms. I'm not going to go over every single detail, but during the setup, you're going to basically choose the number of realms you're going to use. Now, the core set comes with 4 different realms, and they have recommendations in the book as to the number of players, how many realms you could use, although you can use however many you want, really. You just have an easier or tougher game, depending. So, for 4 to 6 players, they recommend all 4 realms, so that's the ones that I have out here. Now, the goal of this game is to awaken the Dark Lords of each realm and then defeat them. The Dark Lords, you have the option of 2 different Dark Lords for each realm. So for the Cherry Blossom sort of Japanese realm over here, you could have either, let me get in focus here. You could have either Tamamo no Mei, I'm sure I'm butchering that, or you could have Bakaneko. For the sort of pirate realm over here, you could have Jack Rackham, or you could have the Pirate King, this little monkey guy. For the sort of fantasy, I guess, Snow White type realm over there, you could have the Mouse King, or you could have Von Rothbart. And for the fairy realm, which maybe that's Snow White's after all, it's you could have the Snow Queen, or another one that I seem to misplace. There we go, Titania you could have instead. So you'll choose which Dark Lord you want to have out there, and they have cool miniatures for all of these different Dark Lords. Although I think that for the retail version, you actually have to buy these separately. But there's the Monkey King, and here is Titania. Basically, there's one for all of them. Now, You'll kind of keep those off separate to the board. That's how you're going to win the game, is by defeating those Dark Lords. But how you're going to lose the game is by having one of these trackers on each of the 4 boards get up to 20. It doesn't matter if it's just one board. As long as one of these trackers is up to 20, all of the heroes will lose the game. Those trackers are going to go up when invaders come out, and we'll get to how that happens in a moment. But for the rest of the setup, each player is going to choose one of these hero cards. Now, they all have different little token images here, but for the most part, they will all play the same. It just matters like what abilities you want to have access to. So you have Jeanne d'Arc, you have Siegfried, you have D'Artagnan, one of the 3 Musketeers, I guess, Robin Hood, the Nutcracker, Sugar Plum Fairy, Snow White, and Red Riding Hood. So you'll choose one of these characters, and then they have all these little red tokens here which represent talents, which have them in this little container here. You'll choose the number of talents equal to whatever you have here. So you'll take 4 swiftness tokens, you'll take a combat token, a heart token, charm token, or book token, and you're actually going to put them on your board. And basically what those represent are talents that you can use on your turn. When you use them on your turn, you're actually going to move them off to the side to represent that you have exhausted them. And then at the end of the entire round, all of your heroes will refresh their talents. Now, what are you going to use these talents for? Well, a few different things. At the start of the game, you're going to randomly spawn artifacts and treasure tokens out on the board. Now, treasure tokens are, you'll have them out on there you have 3 of each artifact and treasure for each different board. So 3 treasures and 3 artifacts for each board. They'll also randomly spawn from the Realms deck, which we haven't quite gotten to yet either. But when you'll take a miniature according to whatever your hero is. So you have, again, you have really cool miniatures like Snow White and all the other different ones. So here is Siegfried, and here is Jeanne d'Arc. So let's say that I'm being Jeanne d'Arc. You'll start off in the town section of a map, and when it's your turn, you can use your talents to do a number of different things. So first, you can exploit swiftness talents to actually move to an adjacent area, and you can keep doing that as long as you have swiftness talents to expend. If you're actually in the town area of your board, you can use a swiftness talent to go shopping. Basically, you'll take the top 2 cards off of this town deck of cards, and if you have the money available to buy them, you can actually buy these and get special upgrades. So the cost is up in the top for this one. It's just -1 coin. So if you spend this, you get this coin. And there's a lot of iconography in the game that you're going to have to look up in the book, but this symbol basically means that and anywhere except for the fairy realm, you can discard this card and get 3 coins. This card here says the Pirate Brotherhood. This one, actually, for every coin that you spend to buy this card, you can actually move any of the black trackers back, which is really, really good. Some more examples. This is another one for a key to a different realm, but you can discard to get 3 coins. The Flying Pig is actually a funny and very good card. You can exploit 2 swiftness tokens to move to any area on any board, which is really, really good. While you're in town, you can actually end your turn, and as a free action, without having to exploit a token, go to any other town and any board that you want, but like I said, it ends your turn. Now, to pick up treasure and artifacts, you also have to expend talents. So if you look at these tokens, it's kind of hard to see, but they actually have little images of the different tokens. These happen to both be books, but some of them have little swords, some of them have coins. So as long as you have those talents, you're able to expend. You can spend one of them if you're in the same area, and then you will actually be able to take that token. Now, if you take a treasure token, then you're actually able to take one of these coins. And I'm not sure if these are going to be in the retail version either, these nice little plastic coins. But you'll take a coin, and then you can expend these as a one-time use thing to either go shopping, or if a monster or an artifact or another treasure requires you to spend a coin, then you can grab it. If you expend the appropriate thing to get an artifact, you'll take the artifact and keep it on your board. Now, the reason artifacts are important is because there are 3 artifacts, like I said, for each board. In order to face and defeat the Dark Lord when the Dark Lord arrives, you need to have 3 artifacts and then attack them. And the Dark Lords come out whenever one of these trackers goes to 16 or higher. But remember, at that point, you really are in trouble, because if it gets to 20, you lose. Excuse me. So that's another thing you can do with your turn. The other thing is fighting invaders. Now, invader tokens are going to come out, and invader tokens have the same type of symbols on them that you have to defeat. And they're also all keyed to a different realm. Now, how are these all going to come out? They're going to come out from the realms deck here. Now, at the start of your turn, you're going to have to go through the invasion phase, and how that works is you're actually going to resolve the trackers, and these trackers go up for every invader that's still on the board from the previous turn. Then you're going to resolve invader special abilities. Some invaders have special abilities like Curse, which makes you lose talents, or abilities that have them move around randomly on the map. Then you're going to draw cards from the realm deck, and you draw a number of cards equal to, I believe it is twice the number of realms boards that you're using plus 1. So for all 4 realms, you have to draw 8 cards plus 1, so you have 9 cards you have to draw. So you're going to keep drawing until you have 9 cards, and these are all going to do different things. So some of them are just going to put treasure out on the board. So this has the silver figurine, so you'll take the silver figurine treasure token, and then you're going to roll this white location die. You go to the appropriate board, so you have to go to the unicorn board, which is over here. Roll the die, and you're going to put that token on the 5 spot on that board. Now, there are also some of them that are keyed to special artifacts. And remember that artifacts are the way that you're going to win the game. Artifacts have like these little candy symbol down here. So, but they work the same way. You'll put, if the artifact token is available, then you're actually going to roll the white die and put it on, in this case, the cherry blossom board. And there you go. The rest of the cards, however, are invaders or monsters, whatever you want to call them. They will work basically the same way with some little caveats. So you'll roll, if you draw one of these cards, you'll roll the location die, look at the appropriate board, put it out on the board wherever the location die tells you to, so you'll take the appropriate token. This actually isn't the right token, but I'll just, as an example, I'll put it out there on the board. Now, down here at the bottom of the card, and there'll also be reminders on the token, are what you need to exploit, the talents you need to exploit on your turn in order to defeat them, the same way you would take artifacts or treasure. If you're in the same area, you can exploit a sword or a heart in this case to remove that gnome token from the board. Over here are special effects. Now for this gnome, every gnome that you kill, defeat, you actually get a gold coin, so that's actually pretty good. Now goblins have a horde ability. Anytime you see another picture of the invader down here and a number more than 1, they're a horde. So you'll roll to determine where on the fairy board that they come out, and then you're actually going to put a total of 3 goblins in this case out, and they need a sword, a heart, or a coin to defeat. Autumn fairies are the same way. They're a horde. There's 3 other ones that come out. Now the Black Knight is actually special. He's got a slightly larger token, and he just requires 2 swords to defeat. Just as another example, let's see. The sorcerer has a negative effect that actually every time you would face the sorcerer, you have to lose 2 random talents before you can even face him, which might mean you may not be able to face him after all is said and done. Let's see. Just as an example. Okay. Anytime that you see, a number that's just 1, this is actually a summon monster. So the Tengu will come out in a random location, and then you take another Tengu token, roll again, and put it in another random location. The Ghost is that curse ability I was talking about. At the start of every round during the invasion phase, anyone who's on the same board with a Ghost has to lose a random talent, and so on and so forth. There are a lot of different monsters and a lot of different abilities. The Dryad, whenever you face a Dryad or challenge a Dryad, you have to roll this die here, which has a picture of every different type of talent on it, and whatever talent comes up, that's a talent you have to exploit in order to defeat her. If you don't have it, you can't defeat it, and you can only do that once per turn. So after you do that, after new invaders come out, then players go to their turns and actually go around trying to get treasure, trying to get artifacts, trying to defeat monsters, all in order to keep this tracker from going up too high. But eventually you do want the tracker to go up high, because at that point the Dark Lords will come out and you can challenge the Dark Lords. Now you can actually team up on a Dark Lord. Let's say that Titania is out here. Jean d'Arc happens to have all 3 artifacts. If her buddies are here in the area, she must have all 3 artifacts, whoever the main player is. But the other 2, and this, you can actually do this with normal monsters as well. The other 2 can actually use talents that they have not spent already in the round on Jean d'Arc's turn and use them to try to take out Titania. Now this is very important because the Dark Lords are much tougher to take out. So Titania says that every time you face her, these fairies actually come out, and you need a total of 2 swiftness tokens, a sword, and a book to take her out. So she can be quite tough. And remember that they only come out when the tracker goes to 16 or above, which means you have to take her out quickly, because at that point you're very close to losing the game. And all the Dark Lords have different special abilities. So the Snow Queen requires 2 books and 2 stars, and is going to make you exhaust talents, I believe. Von Rothbart makes you lose 3 talents before you fight him. The Mouse King brings out more mouse troops when you fight him, and so on and so forth. So that can be pretty nasty. But if you're able to work together, move around the boards, take care of invaders, take care of the Dark Lords, you will be able to win the game. Now, just to show you a few more of the town cards before I stop. The horse is going to give you a permanent swiftness token to use on your turn, but also you can choose to discard the horse to immediately refresh 2 of your other talents. Some more examples. The Pegasus is like a souped up version of that. It actually works like the flying pig and lets you move around the board, but also gives you a permanent swiftness and star token. The Crystal Chalice lets you exploit a swiftness token to refresh 2 of your other talents, and so on. So these can be really good, and shopping there can be very important. Now, let me show you some of the different variants that you could actually use. Now, again, these are little expansion packs that may or may not be in the final retail version of the game, and they're always optional. You don't have to use them. If you find that the game is a bit too easy, you can use the Dark Fortress variant. So, well, actually, it's called the Black Fortress, and they're not all black. But anyways, basically what happens is you'll notice out here on the track, or maybe you won't notice because I'm not quite focused, there are these little black castles on the number 7. Now, when the tracker gets to 7 or above, one of these black fortresses automatically spawns on the map. The way we did it was you just roll the white die and put it wherever it ends up. What this does, it functions like an invader. You need either 3 swords or 3 stars to defeat it. But if you don't defeat it, you are not allowed to challenge any other invader on the board. So that can be really, really bad, because invaders are going to keep piling up, which means the tracker is going to go up faster and faster. And you have to take out that Black Fortress before you can take any of the other invaders out. So that's one variant you can do in order to increase the difficulty. Another variant to actually help you out are to use these 3 buildings, which are the Inn, the Bazaar, and the Stable. You'll put these randomly out on 3 of the boards, which means one board's not going to have them. But wherever they are, basically, you will be able to have another option to go shopping. When you're in that spot, you can draw from a special deck of building cards, which I think I was accidentally drawing from before, but they're keyed to each of the different buildings. So whichever building you're at, you draw from that stack. There's 6 cards for each building stack, and these are just a straight up spend 2 coins to take them off. You don't have to spend a swiftness token to shop first. Spend the 2 coins and you'll take the top card off. And some of them, for example, there's like the Pegasus I already showed you. You have the Magic Potion, which just gives you another heart, and so on. So they're basically about equivalent with the power of the normal town cards, but they're different, and because they're on different sections of the map, it gives you a better chance at getting more equipment and not having to move all the way back to town and expending a swiftness token. Another variant you can do to make the game more difficult is to use these petrified villains, which are petrified invaders, which are just more invaders that are a little bit tougher to kill. They have different cards here. You'll shuffle these in with the 12 Realms deck. And then finally, one player can actually be the evil player in this game. Instead of it being a pure co-op game, one player can take control of the invading hordes and put the invading hordes wherever they want on the map, but also use these event cards on their turn to do nasty things to the rest of the players. So for instance, Blizzard, all invaders of this realm, which is the Cherry Blossom realm, cannot be attacked by any hero during this round. Exploit a random talent in this round from heroes that are in this realm. The Ghost Ship in the Pirate realm, transfer all heroes and invaders from this realm and place them in another realm on an area of your choice. So as you can see, these can be really, really bad. Gemstone Rain, all invaders of this realm are destroyed instantly. A hero of your choice that is in this realm is immune to all effects during this round. So this can be bad, or that could actually be very good for the heroes, but it could also be manipulated in a bad way. Lake Monster, place one invader of your choice on any area of this realm. Exploit a random talent in this round from heroes that are in this realm. So that's one variant option you can do to make the game much more difficult, is have one player be against the rest of them. But essentially, you're trying the heroes of the game are trying to kill the Dark Lords or defeat them, knock them out, and bring peace to the land. And that's 12 realms. Well, I asked the rhetorical question in my intro, was I disappointed by this game or not? And the answer is yes, with a but. The thing about it is, I had really high expectations for this game, probably higher than they should have been, being just a board game, with nice bits. And in the time since I backed this game, I've only really been into board games hardcore. You wouldn't know it from looking at my shelves for about a year and a half. And so I didn't have a ton of experience. I'd played a few games prior to backing 12 Realms, but I didn't have a ton of experience with cooperative games in particular. Since then, however, I've played a lot of sublime cooperative games. Eldritch Horror, Forbidden Desert, Ghost Story, Sentinels of the Multiverse, Legendary, although that's kind of a semi-co-op. Just a lot of really good cooperative games. So getting 12 Realms, the thing about it is, overall, is that it's a decent game, but it's also a very simple game. Now, that is, the publisher of the game never claimed to be more than that. This is supposed to be a fun family game, and it even says it's a light-hearted cooperative game. It's right there in the rulebook and on the box. And so I'm probably not the target audience, being a very hardcore gamer and having the amount of games that I have. But nevertheless, I do think that it's fun and that it's a decent game. Let's kind of start from the beginning and work our way up. So the components of the game are phenomenal. I know that some hardcore miniatures gamers would probably complain about the miniatures that come with the game. I think they are awesome. And I happen to get a pledge level that let them be pre-painted. I don't think they're going to be painted if you just go and buy this from retail. But even so, even on their own, I think they're really, really cool. Some of them just look fantastic. The game also came with little metal coins. I don't think they're just plastic, but they look like metal coins. I don't know if those are going to be in the main game, but those are also really cool. Even the normal tokens look good. The boards look really nice. There's going to be more boards on the way. So all the components, the artwork on the cards, I like all that stuff a lot. The box even looks fantastic on the shelf. So they did a fantastic job with the components. There's no doubt about that. The rulebook is awful. Let's just say that. In fact, so bad that they had to put out a quite large frequently asked questions form. You can find it online. You can find it on Board Game Geek, and I encourage you to get it if you get this game, and get that printed out and have it ready, because there's going to be questions you need to answer. Some things are just not clear, how tokens are placed, and definitely some of the iconography on the cards is just very confusing in the way that it's worded. And the rulebook does not do a good job, especially with the layout. It's just not laid out in a very informative way. It's hard to find things when you need them. And it kind of sucks, especially since this is essentially a very simple game. But you wouldn't know it just from reading the rulebook for the first time. So that needs a lot of work. They are promising to fix that in the reprint. So take that for what it is. Now, the gameplay itself, like I said, it's very simple. Essentially what you're doing is just moving around the board, exhausting your talents, and fighting. There's no real combat mechanic here, which I'm not sure if that would have added to or hindered the game. But basically, regardless of whether you're fighting a monster, an invader, or taking a treasure, taking an artifact, going to a shop, all you're doing is expending tokens. It all kind of works out the same. It's basically a match game, matching tokens to the task that you need to complete. Whether it's even with gold coins, it doesn't feel like you're spending money. It feels like you're just matching tokens. But that's sort of what makes the game so accessible in a way as well. You could easily teach this to a kid. I don't know how early, but at least 8 years old would probably understand the mechanics of this game and be good at it. Now, hand in hand with that, the complexity of this game not being so high goes hand in hand with the difficulty of the game. Now, I've played this 3 times. I won twice. I lost once. But a lot of us losing in that third game has had to do with, bad draw, not getting a lot of treasure and artifacts, but getting tons of monsters spammed on one board at a time and just being overwhelmed. So we all have to run to one area, take out the monsters, and meanwhile, then the monsters start to flood the other areas. So how well you're gonna and how hard the game is can be very random. But at the same time, overall, I think it's an easy game to win. I think there are ways for you to increase the difficulty. You can add the little Black Fortress thing, which does increase the difficulty quite a bit because you're losing valuable time by having to take out those fortresses before you take out anything else. Monsters continue to pile up. You can have one player play as the Dark Invader, and we tried that once, but to be honest, I think it kind of goes against the spirit of the game. The player who is controlling the dark forces, I still feel like you're not doing that much. I feel like you're better off as a player. Like, I was doing it, and I mean, I was, even in the other games where someone wasn't that, I was still the one flipping over the cards, so I didn't feel like it was that different just having the event cards, it wasn't a big deal. So I would probably recommend not playing with that, especially if you're using this as a family game. Make it and keep it purely cooperative. The little crab expansion doesn't add that much. It's kind of neat, but you know. So basically, the little ancillary stuff like the little villages. The villages are fine. As the village buildings, the 3 buildings are fine. These are all kind of like little expansion things which you may have to buy when you add the core game, but they probably don't add enough that you have to go and seek them out. There is enough meat in the core game. It's just a matter of whether you're going to like it based on the complexity of it. If you really like cooperative games, but you also want it to be strategic and you want there to be just a lot of decision making, there is definitely better options. There is decision making to be had in this game, but it's usually a matter of, do I stay here and just clear out this board, or do I go and help you and another board? That's kind of the sum total of it. When it comes down to it, there's no dice rolling involved, there's no luck involved, except from the deck. I mean, there's no luck involved when you're actually going around completing tasks, so it feels like what you have to do can be pretty obvious at times. You should definitely always shop, because getting those cards is critical, like overly critical, especially if you get stuck with a hero, whether you do it randomly or not, like the Musketeer, the Fox Musketeer guy, who has mostly movement. And if you're stuck on a board with mostly people that don't require movement to defeat, or treasures that require movement, the swiftness tokens to pick up, you can be spinning your wheels. So a lot of it can just feel like what to do is very obvious, and a lot of gamers don't like that. So it sounds like I'm very ambivalent about this game, and I am. And I'm not sure that I'm going to keep it in my collection as of now, because it's a very nice game. It looks good. But whether or not I can get the gamerly gamers in my group to play it on a regular basis is a whole other matter. And I have so many other better options for cooperative games that I'm not sure either. So it's a tough one for me. I would like to play it some more and see what they do with expansions. But for right now, you have to be into the theme. If you're into the fairy tale theme, which is well integrated, and you like the miniatures, then you should definitely look into this, although you should still try it. But if you're not into the theme that much and you like games that are a little more strategic, you probably want to move on and check something else out. So, my name is Nick, this has been Board Game Brawl, and I'm reminding you to get out there and game every day and every way. Take care.